So I've been reading a lot about the no-code, low-code movement sort of thing that we can call it. And I want to understand better how the whole data and AI ecosystem fits within this particular framework of solutions. So that's something I've decided to look at. So something I've noticed is that from the point of view of an average buyer, every provider that is involved in providing some kind of solution that has something to do with the data value chain essentially has the same marketing, right? So if you get exposed to the social media marketing of these companies, what you see is company name, become smarter with your data. If you buy or subscribe to our platform, you'll be able to make better decisions with your data. However, there's a lot of different things that you can do with data, or that you need to do to data, or that you need to take into account with data. And it seems to me like it's not obvious at all when you look at the way these different vendors kind of project themselves, exactly what they do. So I figured I would use them, put data in there, try and see what happens with it, how it works, what are their sweet spots, and so on. I hope it also helps you understand what are the different platforms that are offering their services to you and what benefit they can bring to your own practice, right? You're not necessarily a data expert. I want to give you a high-level view of what do these data platforms do, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to take an approach which is this one here. This is like my rendition of what the data value chain kind of looks like. You may disagree, think it's naive or simplistic or wrong or something, that's fine. Just tell me and I can make it better. But it seems to me to make sense, right? So you have your data generation phase where you have some creation of data at some point, whether it's a sensor, whether it's a user doing something on an application or whatever. The user is doing something, but then you have to capture this data somewhere. And you have to know what kind of data it is. You have to type this data somehow. Then this data has to be loaded into some kind of management platform. So here you have your ETL output. I say ETL, you could call it data processing. It can be all kinds of things, but ETL is a nice moniker for it. And you get your data points and you have to replicate them to some data set, right? So you insert them in the table, you update a table, you change some value in a table, whatever. Then you have data that needs to be stored and it needs to be accessed, right? Part of the data management is not only the storage, but it's also the ability to access that data. And then you have the most important piece of the whole data value chain is the transformation of data. You have to turn it into some interpretable thing. First, you have to clean it up. You have to normalize it. You have to make sure that it fits within your framework of data. Make sure that it's understandable. Then you have to resolve it to your data graph. All of your tables and the different pieces of data that are in there, the references that may exist in there, you have to be able to connect this data, to bring it together in a way that is actually connected. Then you have the ability to also aggregate your data. So you have a lot of data points and you might want to group your data. You might want to pivot it to identify categories and deal with them separately. And then, of course, you have to extract it, right? You have to select some of this data in order to perform certain activities. Now, you can then use this data to perform artificial intelligence, as we say today. You can predict data. You can use it to do statistics on it, try and get insights from it, predict what might happen, trigger certain alerts and things like that. So I call that predicting, broadly speaking. Machine learning related predicting, which is doing classical, let's say, statistical machine learning. And then you also have your deep learning algorithms, which use all of this stuff, and maybe also other stuff, but in completely different ways. It takes much more time, different kind of models. And I forgot to mention the deterministic heuristics rules-based systems, which provide a significant part of the model relevancy of any prediction or AI approach. And then you have your machine learning model deployment. Once all of this has been done, you need to be able to deploy your model to a place where it's going to be useful. And that model is going to, in fact, very likely in most cases, generate additional data, which is why I put this as a loop rather than a step-by-step chain thing. And throughout this whole process, you can analyze the data at any point within that loop, because in order to do certain things with it, you need to first analyze it to understand what it is that you should do with it. So for example, if you want to aggregate it, you might first want to run statistics on it and so on. So this whole analysis and visualization is another piece of the value chain which is very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate those platforms. So I'm going to get a reasonably big data set so that I'm not just doing a toy validation of things. I want to make sure that when I have to push data from one one place to the next it works, so that I see what the limitations are. I'm also going to take data sets from different sources so that I can evaluate the ability to merge things and bring them together, even though they come from different worlds. Then what I'll do is I'll review these capabilities and share them with, the rest of the world, so to speak. Anyway, so I think it'll be really interesting for me in any case. I think it's fun to do a video about it. Hopefully in the next few days, I'll be posting a couple of initial ones. I will keep going as long as I have the energy or inclination to do it. Talk to you soon.